FM News Talk 97.1.
On demand audio. Talk lines are open now at 314-969-9797 or toll free at 866-455-9797. You're listening to The Dana Show.
It's a disgrace. I feel police officers throughout this country are out there to protect the public, and they should be respected. And by President Obama nominating him is like spitting on all our officers and our federal agents throughout America.
Yeah, this story is just now taking off. The Department of Justice has been under fire, obviously, for a number of reasons, and deservedly so. Their agenda is quite transparent, and justice doesn't seem, I don't even know why there's a J in there. Justice does not seem to be a concern for the DOJ. And as it has come to light, the president has nominated an advocate for, this is Maureen Faulkner, who you've heard, by the way. She's the widow of Daniel Faulkner, who was killed by Mumia Abu Jamal. And the advocate, the defender of him, the advocate of this guy, has been nominated to the DOJ Civil Rights Division. Joining me on this story, which is pretty ridiculous, is J. Christian Adams. He's a former Department of Justice employee and a whistleblower. He blew the lid off of the new Black Panther voter intimidation scandal. He's also author of the book Injustice. Good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining me today.
Good afternoon, Dana.
This story, I mean, apparently they're not going for quality so much. Tell us a little bit about this, because this has nothing to do with justice. This is all playing favorites. I was really shocked to see this.
Yes, it's racial politics as usual with this Justice Department. President Obama has nominated a man named Dabo Adegbile to be the new head of the Civil Rights Division. It used to be Tom Perez, and they moved him over to be Secretary of Labor, and Dabo Adegbile has been picked to replace him. Now, who is Dabo Adegbile? He used to be the head of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and there he engaged in all the predictable radical policies like attacking school discipline because it's racist, attacking employment background checks because they're racist, keeping whites out of Texas law school like Abigail Fisher because she's white. But he did something else, and you mentioned it in the lead-up. He represented Mumia Abu Jamal, the famous Philadelphia Black Panther cop killer who gunned down Danny Faulkner and became a celebrity among the left over the last 30 years. He was sentenced to death for killing this police officer. And this man, Dabo Adegbile, who President Obama picked to run this huge component of the Justice Department, volunteered to be his lawyer to help him avoid the death sentence and basically go to champion Mumia's cause for the left. And it's a disgrace. In any other era, it would disqualify you for a job at the Justice Department. But under this regime, it's a prerequisite to be radical.
And this Mumia Abu Jamal, the story of this, I mean, it's not like there was any question as to what he did. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this happened in broad daylight. And he shot Daniel Faulkner at close range 4 times. After he shot down the officer once, he stood over him, shot him 4 times at close range, and then shot him in the face. So it's not like there is any question as to what happened to Daniel Faulkner and who did it.
Yeah, and then he confessed. He said, "I shot the MFer, and I hope he dies." So there's not a question. But, Dana, that doesn't stop the kooks on the left from turning this guy into a celebrity. He represents how America oppresses people of color, and he became popular in France. And he's on NPR. Yes, he's a national public radio reporter right now from prison because of how the left has embraced him. That's correct. You can hear him on NPR.
And we pay for that. We pay for that. We're paying for a cop killer. Oh, my gosh, to be a reporter, to pretend to be a reporter for NPR.
So the point is that the left embraced him, And so, that's why Debo Adegbile took on the cause, because he's part of the left, and so is President Obama, and now he's going to be running the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department.
And I'm sure that he's going to be full of caution with respect for the rights of the individual, and there's not going to be any sort of preferential treatment given, and it will actually be all equal before the law, right? Or I'm just being optimistic.
Always, just like it has been the last 5 years, with this Justice Department going after peaceful abortion protesters, dragging them to court on bogus charges, attacking voter ID laws, fighting to allow transvestites in public grades, elementary schools. It's all radical all the time, and Debo Adegbile is just the man for the job to keep it going.
And there are other concerns with this as well, because it's not just with those particular issues. I mean, the Voting Rights Act is something that the Department of Justice is still fighting with individual states down. The Supreme Court had struck down the voting or Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. So how is Debo Adegbile going to interpret the law? How is he going to behave? What can we expect from his tenure in the DOJ?
Well, you can tell what he's going to do, because he was doing it at the NAACP. And when he was at the NAACP, he led litigation attacking election integrity laws like citizenship verification, voter identification laws, cleaning up voter rolls. All of these election integrity mechanisms he stood against. So this hurts the integrity of our elections. He will also do something very peculiar, and that is, they are fighting hard as they can to flood the voter rolls with welfare recipients, with people in crack addiction centers, with anybody who is part of the dependency class, using motor voter, remember from 1993, and they have a very aggressive agenda to pump as many people onto the rolls, whether they've already registered or not, to get ready for the midterm elections.
Wow. His appointment is basically a finished deal, correct?
Well, there's a good question, Dana. They had a hearing yesterday, and sadly, only a couple of Republicans even showed up to ask questions on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Wow. The question is, will moderate Democrats like Bill Pryor in Arkansas, Mary Landrieu in Louisiana, will these folks vote for a radical racialist like Debo Adegbile? If the Republicans don't fight over this nomination, you can be sure the Democrats will stay packed up like a herd and approve it. It's all a question of how much fight is there.
Yeah, and this seems to be something that I'm very disappointed, in fact, that so few Republicans showed up for this. I think I actually remember something about it. There were only like 3 or 4, and some of the big guns in the Senate didn't even show up, which I found really disappointing. Because you're basically, I don't know how else to describe it except for the fact that you're giving Eric Holder, you're giving the administration a blank check to kind of do as they wish within the DOJ, and there are just too many important issues coming up that we just cannot rely on chance. Yeah,
it's a stark contrast between the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats view this sort of stuff as a blood sport. When it's somebody like Jeff Sessions being nominated for U.S. Attorney, Clarence Thomas being nominated for Supreme Court, whenever it's a Republican, the Democrats go all in. They attack ferociously without reserve. But the other side doesn't quite seem to understand how it works.
Right, absolutely. So it looks as though really, this is going to kind of be a finished deal unless there is a fight, which I'm just not. I hate saying it though, because I just don't have, I don't know, I lose a little bit of confidence in the Republican Party on specific fights like this, because this will turn into an identity politics slap fight, and all the focus is going to be taken on what's actually going to happen with this guy's record, what he's done before, and it's a cop killing apologist. Frankly, there's no other way you can paint this. He's a cop killing apologist, a guy who killed a cop in broad daylight, close range, and then admitted it. There's no excuse for this. How is someone like this to be trusted within the Department of Justice?
Yeah, everybody has a right to a lawyer in the guilt or innocence phase. But this guy, Dabo Adegbile, chose to get involved in the appeal process years later when people don't have the same rights to a lawyer. And you know what? People have a right to have a lawyer, okay? You can always hire a lawyer. But that doesn't mean that that lawyer has a right to work at the United States Department of Justice after they represent a cop killer. You know, go be his lawyer, but don't expect to get a job as a political appointee with the government of the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great point to make. Injustice, Exposing the Racial Agenda of the Obama Justice Department is J. Christian Adams' book. If you don't have it, you should get it, because this is exactly the sort of thing that this book addresses. J. Christian Adams with Pajamas Media. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for bringing this to our attention. We appreciate it.
Take care, Dana. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Thanks.